9:13 through 16. Again, this is after Saul's road to Damascus. He's at Damascus at this point. And this is God speaking to Ananias. But Lord exclaimed Ananias, I have heard about the terrible things this man has done to the believers in Jerusalem. So he's heard about the persecution. He may even heard about the plans of why he was coming to Damascus. And he may have figured out Paul's trying to remove the Christians. Him being in Damascus couldn't be a good thing, because he would be trying to put an end to the Christians, which was his original plan, to take the Christians from Damascus to the Rome's custody so they could be killed. So Ananias' fear is well rooted, but he's trying to consult the Lord with his fear, which when we're fearful, that's exactly, and God's calling us in the direction, that's what we have to do. We have to consult the Lord, because He ain't going to change His mind, but we got to rely on Him to get past our fears. And sometimes He'll give us reasoning and understanding, which He does with Ananias. He explains to him why when he seeks him. In verse 14, and we hear that he has arrest warrants, this is why he's coming to Damascus, with him for the chief priest authorizing him to arrest every believer in Damascus. So that's his whole reason why he's coming. The fact is, when he came to the road to Damascus, saw Jesus, it would have been different if the Lord took him to a different city to meet somebody different, because it'd be clear at that point, okay, what he had planned with Damascus is done. But because he was still going to Damascus, Ananias was questioning, well, is he true? Is he going to just be a believer, or is he going to carry out this plan that he had? Because it still could be carried out, because he's in the city where he was to arrest, had authority to arrest. Verse 15. But the Lord said, go and do what I say, for Paul is and this is the explanation, Paul is my chosen instrument to take my message to the nations and before kings, and as well as to people of Israel. And so what's real interesting is that he's told about this before Paul is even told about this, I believe. Paul's just told, why are you persecuting me? I don't believe at that time Paul understood what he was to be done. But Ananias is told that. And I'm sure after Ananias may have seen the change in Paul, and that he was no threat, and that he was a true believer, Ananias may have shared that with what God shared with him with Paul. And then it's, I believe his... Yes. Verse 16. And I will show him how much he must suffer for me. I believe, based off what we see in Scripture with Paul, that second to Christ, he may have suffered the most out of any believer. Because you think most time when they were persecuted, they immediately died after. But Paul faced death situations over and over again. At one time he was stoned, but somehow survived. He was shipwrecked later and still survived.
He was left for dead.
Yes, he was left for dead, but he still survived. He was bitten by a serpent, but survived. Paul went through a lot for the gospel. And I think because of what he was, God allowed him to do that because of who he was going to be through him. Paul had a passion even before he came to Christ. His passion was wrong, but once he came to Christ, the Lord took that passion and drove it towards him, and then he was used to change the world through Christ. And so Ananias' role was very important, because he was one of the first to maybe mentor Paul. He's the first one to take a chance and speak to him and serve him as the Lord commanded him to. So we as Christians, we don't know who we may influence. We just got to be obedient to God when He has us do something. Because they could be the next Billy Graham, Paul, something big. We don't know, but God does. So we have to obey His command because He's could take it to greater heights than we could ever imagine.